Peace of the Lord be with you, and welcome to the Son of the Most Sorrowful YouTube channel. So, today we're going to go over Catholic dating in Southern California, Part 1. Don't do it! Don't do it! Right on. So, what are we focusing on specifically? In the present, this video is not to cause it may, I don't know, some people take stuff too seriously or too personal, I guess, but it's not to cause disillusion. It's just to emphasize the urgency of correction. The fact is that there is some attention being brought to these things that are already happening, which I will talk about, we're about to get into. But it's necessary to revisit it so we can establish the direction that we need to go. Okay, so don't do it. Don't date if you're Catholic and you're in Southern California. Reason number 1. Okay, out here seems to be like in the church, it's no different. Right now there is zero interest in sainthood. Large and by this is true. Yes, there's people that talk about the saints, that show an intrigue and an astoundment towards the stories and the actual real accounts of the saints and the teachings of the saints. Are they in a hurry to live it? Absolutely not. And it's interesting because again, we're not really showing anything new. Like in the book, like it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. But the saints show us what works, what doesn't work. You know what I mean? There is no in between in them, and they're saints. Okay, so what better example is of like holiness other than our Lord Jesus Christ? You know what I mean? But if we're to make it into heaven, we got to live saintly lives. And in Southern California, there just simply is no interest. You know what I mean? For the most part, I have met very few people. Most people are not interested in sainthood. You know what I mean? So that's the reason number 1 why you don't want to date in Southern California. You know what I mean? For context, there's the lack of interest in sainthood. I mean, I guess just to wrap up this first point, sounded like I was going to wrap it up, but I, should go into the fact that, if people are not showing interest in sainthood, like by default, they're showing interest in the world, they're showing interest in material things. It's really, I mean, we're in Sodom and Gomorrah times 1,000, I would say, at least, down here in Southern California. So the single people are lukewarm at best, right? It's not, the pickings, it's slim pickings out here for men and women. Both men and women in the church need a lot of help. There's a lot of work to do. So reason number 1, don't do it. Reason number 2, effeminacy has caused great damage in men. You got a lot of men that they're not willing to make the sacrifices necessary to be a man of marriage, to be a man that is a provider and a protector to the family. There's a lot of obesity. There's a lot of lax views on the church. And there's a lot of lukewarmness, right? Effeminacy, effeminate behavior in men. There's vanity. There's an aversion to picking up your cross daily and live a sacrificial life, right? The idea of like wanting to get married for a lot of men out here, a lot of men in general, but we're talking about Southern California specifically. It's very rom-com. It's very Disney among the men. They just want to save the damsels in distress. And the women out here are just not damsels in distress. You know what I mean? Just keeping it real. So there is a strong, the demand is high for strong men. And there's very few stepping up, you know. Reason why is because effeminacy. Again, there's a lot of watching the websites. There's a lot of men living in the flesh. There's fewer men living in the spirit out here. So, you know, man, we gotta step it up, man. Gotta step it up. It's not looking good. Reason number 2, don't do it. Effeminacy has done a lot of damage in men. Reason number 3, feminism has caused great damage in women. So the idea from women that they don't need a man, they don't need you know, to be married. You're making a huge mistake in picking a marriage and a life of a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mom, you know, a homemaker is incredible. If it's looked down upon in most of the country, it is definitely, by the consensus is, you're not to be a homemaker here. It's frowned upon. It's not desired. There's a lot of independent women here. That's the ideology, at least. And when you think about it in context of the faith, it's actually like pretty absurd, considering that women come from man. Literally, like women that are watching this, you know, I'm not saying this to offend you. I don't make up the rules. I didn't create man. I didn't create woman. Okay, women come. The first woman, Eve, comes from one of Adam's ribs. Okay, so it is entirely inappropriate for any woman to be declaring independence from men. It's just simply not according to God's design. Man was always created to protect and lead and provide for woman. And woman was always intended to, you know, be a helper to man, not less than. I feel like that's where a lot of people get it wrong, right? Women are not less than men. That's not what I'm saying. You know, I know I'm coming off strong here with the whole "you come from Adam's rib" type thing. Real truth, excuse me. But the thing is, that doesn't make women less than men. Men and women are both equal in the eyes of God. I'm going to say that one more time. Men and women are equal in the eyes of God. You know, equally important. Designed to live together in harmony. Men have a design, an original design, qualities and traits that are masculine. Women have an original design, qualities and traits that are feminine. Okay, and effeminacy in men has damaged men, and so now they're feminine. Okay, and feminism has damaged women, and now women are masculine. So it's totally backwards here. Yeah. So reason number 3, just because the attitude large and by here by the women is I don't need a man, or I could just get another one. I would say that's the attitude for a lot of men too. You know, the alphas, quote unquote, the men who have it all together, quote unquote. Out here, it's just the devil's playground out here. Men are playing with women and women are playing with men, and it's just like, it's a mess. It's a huge mess. Okay, single mothers are rampant out here. You know, you got men with a lot of you know, children from multiple mothers. You know, I don't want to use the term, you know, that you're thinking of when I'm describing these people. I just don't feel like I don't know. I don't like that word. It's or that term. I feel like it has a it has a derogatory connotation because it's not what is supposed to happen, right? It's a broken thing. I'm not saying this to look down upon, single motherhood, and I'm not saying this to judge men that have children's with multiple women. Um, I'm just saying that it was not as God intended, right? We serve a God of order and clarity, okay? God created marriage between one man and one woman, you know? And so that has caused great damage. Feminism for women and effeminacy in men. We got it all backwards, and it's just, we have forgotten totally what marriage is and what marriage requires and what it actually is. It's a service to God, right? You're serving the Lord by fighting for union with your spouse, whether you're a man to a woman or a woman to a man, right? And that leads me to number 4. Sexual liberation has caused great damage, right? Here in Southern California, I mean California in general, but particularly in the southern region, we have really pushed as a state for the advancement of the sexual liberation, right? And for a long time, it's been decades coming, right? But in the last decade, especially, I would say it's gotten really, the sexual revolution has totally taken over, and now we have, all kinds of crazy beliefs about what a woman is, what a woman isn't. People can't even answer the question, which is an adult female, right? That is a woman. And what is a man? It's an adult male, an adult human male. So it's just caused a lot of confusion out here, man. Whether people want to admit to it or not, or whether people want to say like, oh, this is for the better. We need to be tolerant, and we need to like, be. Well, they don't even say tolerant. We need to embrace these ways. You know what I mean? And now it's being taught in schools. Children are learning this, and like, I don't know who came up with the idea that like, anything but academics should be taught in school. School should be just for academics. You know what I mean? And it's the fact that we want to indoctrinate children to believe things that are false, things that are confusing. You know what I mean? They're giving hormone blockers to the children. They're telling the children, oh, if you're trans, like you don't have to tell your mom and dad. You can just be with us, and like we'll help you. We'll get you what you need to get going on that. Pretty much. And it's incredibly deceptive. It's caused a lot of damage out here for sure. The whole abortion thing, man. And I don't even know if this video is going to get taken down or whatever. But I might even have to reshoot this video, dude. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm going to have to reshoot this video. Man. Nah, we'll just keep rolling with it. Man, this whole YouTube thing is crazy. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're getting rid of babies like it's a sport out here. You know what I mean? Have been for a very long time. But yeah, man. Sorry, I'm just like trying to get back into can't talk about certain things on YouTube, man. And I'm the kind of guy that I don't really care about that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Normally, but if I want my message to reach a lot of people, I gotta care a little bit. You know what I mean? Which is the crazy thing. To me, I'm just like, but gotta humble thyself, gotta play by the rules. So yeah. I guess we'll start number 4 over. Let's start number 4 over. The sexual liberation has caused great damage. You know what I mean? And confusion among men and women. You can't even get a straight answer for like, what is a woman? What is a man? What is a woman? It's an adult human female. What is a man? It's an adult human male. You know what I mean? And, the idea that we have to be embracing of ideas that there are other possibilities on a spectrum, or that human sexuality is a construct or whatever. I've heard a lot of things. It's really not that complicated, man. You can't undo biology. You know what I mean? And people call you insensitive or judgmental or intolerant or a bigot or all kinds of things for just wanting to say, you know what? I don't believe in all that. You know what I mean? And you want to fight for the truth as God made it. You wanna defend God's design, of one man, one woman. You know what I mean? There's people that believe that, one man, multiple women is good. It's biblical, Solomon, who else? Abraham. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, those are like, Solomon be the number one that people will be like, well, you could be rich and have a lot of women. God allowed it. And it's like, God respects our free will, right? But was that what he intended originally? Definitely not. You know what I mean? Because if it were so, it would have been Adam and many Eves, right? As many Eves as he wanted, probably. Who knows? That was never the original design. To be away from that. One man, many women. One woman, many men. So, I mean, the fact that we're doing all this out here is just, it's really torn things apart. Divorce is rampant out here. A lot of people don't want to get married out here. You know what I mean? Because, again, it's slim pickings. It's slim pickings. So, if you want to date in Southern California as a Catholic, don't do it. Right on. Let's move on to number 5. Pleasure is the priority. We have departed from the cross. No suffering. I just want to have fun. I want to grind all day and party all night. Right? And I am absolutely guilty of this for a long time. Most of my life, that is actually what I did. So if anybody's going to tell you that it's wrong, it's going to be me. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that boastfully, like, oh yeah, I party. So, obviously there's going to be that, that one person. Well, man, you got it out of your system. So you got to let me get it out of my system so that I can get to where you're at and then we're good. And it's just like, that's not the point, man. Like, I'm 31 with nothing to show for the fact that I'm 31. All my best years, I spent partying, I spent doing drugs, I spent drinking excessively. So me telling you that it's not the thing to do, to grind all day and party all night, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. I'm just trying to tell you it doesn't work. It is not the intended design for us, right? Um, Now, I don't believe that you should just grind all day and just not have a prayer life and just try to get rich. I feel like it's easier to do that now than it's ever been. I will still say it still requires work. It still requires consistency. But again, because of man's desire for ambition and for avarice, just more, more. Let's do it better, bigger, faster. You know, yeah, we've gotten to a point where, for the first time in history, it's this easy to get rich. You literally pull up a phone and start, you know, making brain rot content. There's a lot of people that do it, and you become a millionaire. You at least be making hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? There's tons of women that are on the websites, you know, doing OnlyFans content and all this stuff, and they're making a lot of money doing it. You know what I mean? And it's not making the world a better place, So, and not to make it sound like I'm casting judgment, I'm just, making an observation, right? If it was a good thing, the world would be better for it. It's not, so you know what I mean. But that's the thing. It's just, we have gotten so far away from God, and people are just like, don't know what to do with themselves anymore. I was one of them. If I stray away from God, I still have the temptation to go here, to go there, to try this, to try that, and just go about the pleasures of the world and go, I like that. I like that a lot. You know what I mean? And I like this one and that one. And you know what I mean? It's not built to last. It ages you faster. You die sooner. You get sick quicker, easier. You put yourself in a position where you can get a chronic illness from sleeping around, from being in deep dark places. It's not the way we're designed to live. So, the departure from the cross and a willingness to respond to your design, right, as God intended it. Man to be a man, no matter what society says. A woman to be a woman, no matter what society says. Everyone is just really focused on, I want to do what I want out here. And it has changed the environment completely, especially in dating. Young people are just using each other. Hookup culture. Now we're starting to see the consequences of hookup culture, I gotta say. I feel like just now people are starting to lose interest. But even then, because there's still needs to be more movement towards God, we're seeing compromise results, right? You know what I mean? Maybe, I don't know. It's just, pleasure is the priority, and we have departed from the cross. So that's number 5. Number 6 is we have this overly romanticized idea of marriage, right? So marriage is not a Disney ride. Marriage is not they live happily ever after, right? Marriage is tough. It's difficult. Yes, there is love involved, seriously. But people have this idea that it's most of it. It's actually not. I would say at most a good, healthy, functional marriage, the emotion and feeling of love is actually a third. of what it actually is. The other 2/3 is actually, you know, and I want to say no, the center one, right, is love, devotion, and service to God, right? Because if you don't love and fear the Lord and desire to serve Him, you're going to cheat on your spouse. You're going to divorce your spouse because you're going to be removed mentally, spiritually from what marriage is. You know, if you just focus on like, I'm supposed to love, I'm supposed to feel loved, and I'm not feeling loved right now. So divorce, divorce. And there's a lot of that, man. There's a lot of that. We have Hollywood out here. We have all the romantic films. You know, all the Disney. There's an obsession with Disney out here like you would not believe. Um, it's just crazy, man. Um, so yes, there is love, because God is love, right? God is love itself. But a functional, healthy marriage is not totally based on love, the emotion. You know what I mean? Because it's temporary. Your feelings leave. You know, one day, what if you're upset at your spouse and now you know, oh man, I don't love my spouse anymore. You know what I mean? It's the same with your relationship with God. You're not gonna be, you know, don't tell me you've never been upset with the Lord. I have been upset with the Lord. You know what I mean? It's okay. You're human. It's better for you to say, the Lord, I'm mad at you, than to try and fake it, because the Lord can see right through you, you know. And then try and fake it and say, no, Lord, I'm not mad at you. It's all me. And like you actually feel mad at the Lord. Like, you know what I mean? It's better for you to say what is. Say yes when yes and no when no. You know. But anything else is of the devil. So that's in Matthew, I think. Somewhere between I think it might be chapter 8. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I need to read my gospel more. But, yeah. It's the overly romanticized idea of marriage that is actually not doing us a lot of good. Number 7, we have single motherhood is rampant out here. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of guys that, because they're lonely, I have seen a lot of boyfriends they get with women with children, with the idea of like, well, those are not my kids, so I'm not financially obligated to take care of them. You know what I mean? Which it doesn't really set things up for a positive union to begin with, right? As a, you know, a man uniting with a woman with a lack of responsibility. I get it, that's not his kids, you know what I mean? And you shouldn't have the other extreme either. There's ways to go about it, right? The whole blended family thing. My whole point is that single motherhood has caused it's an immense problem. If you ask most guys, you know, would you be in a relationship with a woman with kids? Would you marry a woman with kids? Why or why not? The answer, flat out, most of the time is no. You know what I mean? Most men don't want to deal with the fact that women got baggage from past relationships. They don't want to deal with it. We're not even going to get into the issues. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to attack single mothers. You know, my respect to, you know what I mean, all the women that kept their children over the years, and they're fighting the good fight. Oh, you know, fighting the good fight is a very specific context. So I'll take that back. But they're fighting for their kids to raise them, to work. You know what I mean? That is hard. It's very difficult. Okay, to do it all by yourself. Women were not designed to do it all by themselves. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was not designed to end up that way. And the fact that that's the current state of a lot of women now, you know, men don't want to get married or don't want to become a boyfriend to most women that are single mothers. You know, that's just the truth, you know. So now, another reason not to get married, right? So, Southern California, if you're Catholic, don't date. And I'm going to make a part 2, right? Because obviously I'm pro-marriage. You know what I mean? If I'm anti-fornication, if I'm anti, uh, you know, polyamory or whatever, multiple relationships with multiple people, open relationships, I'm not for all that. So obviously I'm Catholic, I'm pro-marriage, you know. But we're exercising a point in this video like we had said in the beginning. So, number 8, male delinquency is at an all-time high. All-time high. We have a lot of men out here that feel like they don't have a purpose in life. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we're just doing what feels good. And for the youth, for men, for young men, there is a lack of guidance, right? There's a lack of guidance. There's a lack of discipline. There's a lot of, because it's really expensive to live out here. There in the previous generation, I mean, there's a lot of fathers that just had to grind it out, man. That had to figure it out financially. Just were not able to be there for their kids, you know. So as a result, when you don't have your parents, you do bad things, man. You give into your fallen nature without God, you know. I did it, and I had my parents. You know what I mean? I can only imagine somebody that in their formative early years as a child had their parents constantly at work, were left alone to do whatever. You know, did only God knows what. You know, have a pattern of like ending up in prison. The statistics and the probability for a young man to end up in prison, in and out, from fatherlessness is very high. You know, I was actually very young when I learned that. So, because we don't have a strong presence of like fatherhood or a strong priority of fatherhood, you know, in being attentive, I feel like one saying that I hear a lot, and it's very common, and I don't understand it, is like, hey, there is no book on being a parent, you know, or no one teaches you how to be a parent. The thing is, there are books on how to be a parent, and there has been books on being a parent for a long time. It's just, do people want to get up and read them? No, you know what I mean? And to a point, I understand, because I mean, when you're a parent, kids, they need a lot of attention, right? And you know, so that's when you have like things financially in order. Now, just imagine if you're broke and you're a parent. It's like, who wants to read a book, right? But no one said it would be easy. And I'm not saying, you know, I don't know, man. To me, there's no reason to go around saying that there's no book on how to be a parent when there are books, on many books. There have been for a long time on how to be a parent, because good parents looked around the world and said, "Hey, being a parent is hard. You know, it seems like a lot of people are struggling, so we're gonna write this book." You know what I mean? Because people are we want to pass on these positive results, you know, to other people. And so that's the thing, man. It's hard, and then now you have TikToks on how to be a good parent. Ideas, short but effective ideas on how to be a good parent. So it's hard to make that excuse fly anymore, man. And like, society is taking such a hit from these broken kids. So especially the male ones. There's a lot of male delinquency. So, you know, we need God now more than ever, man. We need to repent constantly. You know, that doesn't exclude me, by the way. Like, I need to repent every day for the rest of my life. So the work is not done. So that's number 8, male delinquency. Don't do it. If you're in Southern California, Catholic dating, don't do it. Stay single. We'll get into the solutions in the next video. Number 9, obesity and poor health, right? So it's actually common more common than I had thought. Because of the general state of people's health and lack of like self-care, self-awareness of good health. There's just in this country and south of the border, man. You know what I mean? I'm Mexican, so I uh I know my culture, man. We're not the healthiest people in the planet. Uh by choice, by culture. It's just ingrained in the culture. You know what I mean? And even, man, when I went vegan and I was trying to like take care of my health and I was just not eating things, I got a lot of heat for that. You know what I mean? It's like, aren't you happy that I'm healthy? And it's just like it's they don't think about these things when they're saying like, oh, you're not gonna eat carnitas, like they rubs them the wrong way. You know what I mean? So it's just, why, if I want to be healthy, like you got to look down on me, man. That's not my problem that most people make the choice to not watch what they eat. You know what I mean? Um, and it's tough, man. When you're looking to get married, you got to take care of your health, dude. You got to take care of your health. How do you think people struggle to have kids? Men, when they're overweight, their vitality goes way down, plummets. They're highly estrogenized, you know. And women, when they're overweight, they're more prone to miscarriage. You know what I mean? Which actually is more common than I thought. I thought miscarriage was like something that happens every once in a while. The percentages for a woman to miscarry has been actually considerably. It's higher than I would have thought. Um, which is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. My heart goes out to all those women who like suffer miscarriages. It's an awful thing to go through. It's an awful tragic thing to go through and lose a child. You know what I mean? And to long for having a baby, to long to be a mom. I think that's beautiful, but it is really tragic that miscarriage is so common. Why? You know what I mean? Because we want to eat whatever we want and like, just I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough. That's a really tough one for me. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna sit here on my throne and say like, my health was always great. My health was terrible because I was like an alcoholic for a long time. I love to drink and I love to smoke weed for a long time. So I was highly estrogenized myself. You know what I mean? I don't have kids, but you know, uh, I was not in a condition to have kids. You know what I mean? Not to be like imprudent or whatever, but like I probably did not have a fertile seed at the time. Being so young, and it's just like that's crazy to think about because I wanted to drink and smoke and eat whatever I wanted. You know what I mean? And I wasn't overweight, but I was underweight for a lot of reasons. You know what I mean? Wasn't retaining, uh, wasn't practicing semen retention, wasn't I was just spilling the seed. I was drinking a lot of beer. I loved to drink beer back in the day. I loved to smoke weed. So like, I'm not one to talk. I gave into the appetites of my flesh, but it's just like, yeah, man, it's really tough to find like and a lot of people that take care of their health, uh, they're on birth control, man. A lot of women out here on birth control, or a lot of men out here. I don't know what the percentages of men getting vasectomies out here. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. People don't want to have kids. People don't want to have kids out here. Even the ones that are in great shape. It's crazy. It's crazy. So obesity and poor health is probably like it has caused the pool of singles in the church specifically to dwindle. You know what I mean? And people who are eligible to marry, people who are in physical condition to have children. Having kids is not easy. So yeah, that's number 9. And then number 10 is we have a complete rebellion against the original design of marriage. So that's the thing, man. Like I had said, is marriage was originally designed to be in service to God. You know, to love and care for your spouse because God is your Father and you want to serve and please your Father in heaven. And He is also your Lord and Master, you know. So when you get married to your spouse, that's either God's daughter or God's son, you know, that you are called to care for and to love and to have loyalty to, because you're having loyalty to God, you're having loyalty to your spouse out of obedience to God. You know what I mean? It's not, and out here it's very, people are very wishy-washy, you know, and I gotta throw myself in there too, you know, as like, why are you not married? I'm not married, you know what I mean? And that's probably gonna cause my credibility to take a hit, right? Because insofar as like what I've been able to provide or what I'm talking about, it comes mostly from observation, from observing things out here and observing the landscape. You know what I mean? But yeah, I gotta fix that within myself too. I can't be wishy-washy because the day that I'm married, you know what I mean, that's gonna be it. It's like I don't want to get divorced. I don't want to have this pattern because guess what? Once you get divorced once and you remarry, the probability of divorce increases the more times you get divorced, which is crazy. You know what I mean? So if I'm not corresponding to, you know, being in control of my emotions in the context of marriage, you know, maintaining a masculine frame in the context of marriage, you know what I mean? I want to insist on like, well, I should be able to act however I want, and like whoever is like my future spouse has to deal with it and put up with me. And it's just like, well, no, not so. Because if you're going to be in a union with somebody, you know what I mean? You have to be able to provide for their needs. You know what I mean? And part of doing it for God is and participating in His supernatural love, infinite love, is to do it without expecting things in return, right? Which is not easy to do. You try and do that without the God's good grace, right? It's impossible, near impossible. I mean, I would say it's impossible. Can't be done. Cannot be done. Without God's grace, your attempts at infinite supernatural love are futile and just your results are not going to be it. You're not special. I'm not special. No one's exceptional to that. Without God, we will fail in marriage. That has been proven time and time again. Look at the stats, look at the culture, look at the attitude of many young men and women. You know what I mean? Which I gotta say, undeniably, there's been a shift, right? You know what I mean? There's a shift. Things are starting to change. So I don't want to make this video all pessimistic, you know what I mean? I just believe that insofar as like we got to be realistic about where we're at. We can't be delusional about like what is happening and what isn't happening. You know, we have to be honest with ourselves. Because if you're not honest with yourself, you know, this is how we have a lot of people, you know, anybody can get married. Anybody can find a lonely heart and say like, hey, I'm a lonely heart too. Like, let's get married, you know. Now's our chance. And it's like, no, fool. It's going to end up in divorce, more than likely. Because guess what? Did God bring you that spouse? Did God bring you that person in your life? Did you pray to the Lord for a good husband? Did you pray to the Lord for a good wife? Did you wait? Or were you out there swimming around looking for a fish? You know? Or instead of, you know, seeking the Lord and seeking the kingdom first and relying on God's grace to pick a good husband for you, a good wife for you. You know what I mean? Which is the way that it was done before. In the Bible, there's instances of that happening. You know what I mean? In the Old Testament, which I don't think it's a throwaway at all. I think, you know, people who, how can you own a Bible and say that the Old Testament is no longer valid because of the New Testament? I don't believe that at all. But to my point, you know, that's another conversation. Is like, you know, I don't know if it was the wife of Jacob. I think, don't quote me on it. It was somebody in the Old Testament. You know what I mean? Had their servant go to a town far away, and that even that servant prayed to God. You know what I mean? And they received wisdom to take for the wife of, I'm pretty sure it was either Jacob. I don't think it was Isaac. I'm pretty sure it was Jacob, because I think Jacob is the son of Isaac. You know, I gotta go back and read my Bible. You know, throw it in the comments, right? If you know, and that way we can all learn, right? Because I don't know everything, but I try to stick to the truth as much as possible. It was the woman that fed his horse or something. You know what I mean? That was who the wife was, you know. But it was already told to him. It was, my point is, he sought wisdom from the Most High, you know, before he went ahead and chose a wife for his master, you know. So why do we think it's different for us? You know, we think we're so smart with our apps and with our algorithms and our database of singles. Not so, man. Not so. I'm not seeing the results. And I think we got, if we're honest with ourselves, we got to be like, you know what, man? God has the answer. God is the answer, you know, to all these problems. So I think we're going to end it with that. It's just, God is the answer to all these problems. California, Southern California is not beyond saving. You know what I mean? But should you date in Southern California? I don't believe so. I think it's time to seek the Lord. I think it's time to give it to God. I think it's time to be honest with ourselves and say, look, we've tried this, we've tried that, we've tried this, we've tried that. We have tried basically everything without God, you know, or what we think is God's grace, you know, only to have compromised results. Mediocre at best. You know what I mean? Where are the miracles at? Should be experiencing miracles, man. You know? The God that, you know, makes miracles happen through his creation, which is the human beings, the human race, is not gone. It's just, you know, we limit God's power with our disobedience. We limit God's power with our misuse of free will, you know, by failing to align with his. So we got to do better, man. And so we're going to come in with a part 2, and we're going to start with the men. Solutions, man. Solutions. It's time to get to the solutions, because we got problems, you know what I mean? So it's time to get to the solutions. So yeah, let's keep praying together, man, for unity between men and women, for restoration of those that are giving in to whatever ideas they have about sexual liberation and just doing whatever they want. So crazy out here, man. Unprecedented. We are living in unprecedented times. But again, if we place our hopes in the Lord, no one is beyond saving. I can tell you that right now. This has been Son of the Most Sorrowful YouTube channel. And may God bless you, my family on YouTube. And I'll see you at the next one.